the title is Survive and Thrive, and the whole idea and concept behind that is that we are working on our year. We're working on the hours of the year this year. We're working on the choice to be what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us to be, which is the best. Ahsan al-taqweem, the best of creation, the best of humanity. And in order to do that, we need to call on the skills of living that the Prophet ﷺ has taught us. And in the great blessing of this faith, and in the great blessing of living in a time when internet connects us together and connects us to the past and connects us to the future, we can also learn from the things that people around the world have said. So before I start today, I wanted to share some different fun quotes with you because I think that's fun. So I will start here with just a few. I have actually a whole bunch of them, all about surviving and thriving, but maybe we'll do 3. Okay? Let me see. How about, here's one that's from an unknown author. Oops, my computer's not, my computer has been misbehaving all morning. So I'm going to put it here in the whiteboard. I hope. Yeah, it's going to be really small. Let me see if I can make that a little bit bigger. Okay, well, it's small. When life gives you 100 reasons to cry, show life that you have 1,000 reasons to smile. So I like that. That's a paradigm shift and an attitude change. Let me see. Here's another author unknown. And again, I apologize for the size. I can put this size up, I know, but we'll just put it in there and I'll read it to you. And if you can make it larger in your computer, then that's great. If not, actually, maybe I can. There we go. There we go. Haha. A bend in the road is not the end of the road unless you fail to make the turn. And so here we go. We're heading towards this new life. And this year, this great year, inshallah. All right, one more fun quote for us for the morning. Let me see. How about this one? This is kind of a funny one. This kind of brings us into what we need to talk about today, which is, it's not easy. Oops. Well, how are we going to make this fit? Oh, for goodness sakes. It's not easy taking my problems one at a time. Oh, it's just not going to be there. That's okay. It's not easy taking my problems one at a time when they refuse to get in line. So, alhamdulillah. This brings us right into what we're going to talk about today, which is this idea that we have a sorry, I'm trying to do too many things at once, and I'm actually not that good at that. Let me see. So what happens when you give the person who's supposed to talk the job to record and do all the things. I can't move my thing up now. Okay. Sorry, everybody. I don't know why it's cooperating with me. There we go. Okay. Now, admin, could you just move that in there, please? It's really hard for me to do that at the same time. If you could move the, thank you. If you could move the PowerPoint in, that'd be so helpful. All right, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, salatu wassalamu ala sayyidina al-mursaleen, walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Let's talk about this, our survival guide. What is a survival guide for Muslims? And how do we live in the woods of modern times, surviving the beasties and the bad weather, in order to fulfill our dreams and aspirations, or as we said in our title today, in order to thrive. So the purpose of today's class is, this monthly open class, is to talk about really the survival guide. Like if you look at the picture there, that's intended for everyone who is camping out there. You know that you have to have rules in camping. You have to, if you go to camp, you have certain supplies that you need if you're going to survive out in the wilderness. And if you don't have those supplies, your survival will go down. Excuse me, there are lots of movies out there about this, and books and stories for children, all about surviving in the wilderness. It's actually sort of a fascination of the human being. How do I survive? If I was stuck in the woods, what would I do to survive? And so, and people know the answers. People have experience. One of my friends in my cohort, she used to live and work with a youth group in Vermont, out in the woods. And she was in doing that. And so she's become the expert of building fires, the expert of chopping wood and all of these things. If I'm stuck in the woods, I want to be stuck with Tara. That's who I want to be stuck with, because she has the skills to survive. And what we want to become today are the people that other people want to be stuck with. In this world, we're sort of being kind of funny there, but how to live in the woods of modern times and survive the beasties is it's a silly statement, but it's also quite real. That we live in the wilderness of modern times. We live in a time when there is danger of all sorts of things around us, and we need survival skills in order to manage this, or if we follow the metaphor, the bad weather, the storms, the loss of food. I remember once when I was in 6th grade, I went on a canoe trip. It was a St. Croix Water Valley canoe trip for 6th graders. It was a summer program. It was 7 days. We canoed down the St. Croix River Valley and camped out in the open, well, in a tent, but out in the open on the riverbank. I was in 6th grade. And it was wonderful. I loved it. It was a wonderful experience. It taught me that what I could do, especially as a 6th grader. I was 10, I think. Yeah, I would have been 10 going into 6th grade. I think so. Anyway, so what happened, of course, were some horrible things. We had the very, very first night we set up camp, and we stayed in our tents, and it poured rain, and the rain came into the camp and filled our tent, and our stuff got wet. And I remember my jeans, I was sleeping in my jeans, and my jeans were soaking wet. And anyone who's ever had soaking wet jean cloth knows that that's just horrific. And we had to get in the canoes and keep on going. And so we were learning on that trip how to survive in the woods. And we learn how to survive in this life, to be sure, from one another. But we want to be, I'm going to repeat what I said earlier for those of you who just came on. We want to learn how to be the people that other people want on their road of survival and thriving, in this world. Just like I want to go with Tara. Like, I know how, because of 6th grade, I have a vague memory. I know how, I don't have a vague memory about how to canoe. I am a really wonderful canoeer person. I don't know how to say it. Even though for 30 years I didn't canoe. Like the last time I canoed was last year, I think, or maybe it was 4 or 5 years ago now. But before that, it had been at least 20 years since I stuck a paddle in the water. At least, if not more. But that week on the St. Croix River Valley, plus some times after that, taught me. We did rapids, we did everything. I know how to canoe. So practice means I could take you canoeing. But camping, I'm not, I need Tara for that. So in this world of surviving and thriving, through capitalism and liberalism and all the isms that are trying to take us away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we need a survival guide. We need to know how to live in the woods of modern times. And while I may be sort of funny there, trying to survive the beasties in the bad weather, I am also quite serious. And even more important is that second sentence, and fulfill our dreams and aspirations. Fulfill them so that when we are on our deathbed, we are not only grateful for the life we've lived, but we feel that we've contributed something, and we're able to go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with what we have brought to this earth. So what do we need to do? So if you're going camping, we're gonna extend the metaphor. And when you're going camping, the one thing you definitely need to do is you need to prepare. If you go camping without preparing first, even if you don't know that even if you don't camp, you can imagine how stuck you'll be if you don't have what you need on this trip. And so in the same way, we need to be prepared for the trip we want to take. As Benjamin Franklin said, by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. Now, when we think about that, if we are serious about that, we have to do two things. We have to think about where do we want to go, and then what do we think we need to get there. So we have this funny picture. The mouse wants the cheese from the trap, and so the mouse has decided that the mouse needs a helmet. Now, that might work, but we know for sure without the helmet it won't work. And so we're going to try to find the tools that we need to help us as we go out into this world to achieve our goals. Our goals are not cheese. Even though Muslims, we like food, to be sure, but that's not, our goals are not cheese. Our goals are to engage ma'ruf, to create goodness, to literally find goodness, uplift it, or create it ourselves, and to see what is ugly, harmful, and harsh, yanha an al-munkar, to push back on all of that. Push back and push aside and move to the back and help to stop all that is ugly, oppressive, and abusive in this world. So that's our goal. Now, and all of that, of course, is with the more elevated goal of pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which for that goal, we need ihsan. So that's our goal. So if we can just think about what's our cheese, that's our cheese. Now, what do we need for that goal? What do we need to do that? Oops, wrong computer. We need to bring survival gear. That's first. First thing we need to do is bring survival gear. We need to pack well. You know you're not surviving in the woods if you don't have good boots. Last week, I was up in the Minnesota woods. I was in a cabin though, not in a tent. And I was writing for my dissertation. And every day I went for a walk in the woods. I did that to move my body because I literally sat at the computer for 18 hours. And I also did it because I was in the woods. You have to see the woods when you're in the woods. I ran into deer. I ran into footprints in the snow. I ran into all sorts of things. But mostly, if I didn't have boots, I would have ran back into the cabin because the snow was deep and we sunk into it. Tara, who was with me, had snowshoes. So Tara was great. Tara was able to go anywhere, and she did. She went miles on the snow. She said she left the property and went somewhere else in the woods. And she knew that for I can't remember what reason. I couldn't do that because I didn't have snowshoes. I didn't have the right gear for the snow. However, alhamdulillah, I had excellent boots, so I could stay out for my full hour and, stomp around in the snow and get to where I wanted to go, even though I was sinking with every footstep. But alhamdulillah, for me, that was okay because my goal was to move. My goal was not to go outside to take a deep exploration. But had my goal been deep exploration, I needed snowshoes. I needed the correct gear. And so for our goals, which are really high, we need the correct gear. So again, extending our metaphor, we need this backpack, the hat, the binoculars, and what's that last thing? Water and a compass. Compass and water. Okay? Sorry, okay. So first of all, what should we start with? How about if we start with binoculars? Let's start with binoculars. In order to walk on this road that we're talking about, we need binoculars. Binoculars are the ability to see far. They're eyes to see with. They are the eyes that we need to see with. That's the framework. That's how we see the world. And so we have to go with this Muslim Islamic framework, with the framework of halal haram, the framework of ihsan, the framework of iman, the eyes to see what is good and right and what is wrong. In today's modern world, we don't always know. And there are literally people who will tell us, no, this is right, even though our heart says it's wrong. Or even though our text says it's wrong. It's still, people will tell us it's right. So we need the binoculars, the eyes to see and know if something is right or something is wrong. How do we get that? Well, part of the way we get those binoculars, unfortunately, unlike camping, we can't just go and buy them. And actually with binoculars, we have different kinds. We have the little kid binoculars that help us see a little bit. And we have the real explorer binoculars. And what we're hoping to do is to become people who have the real explorer binoculars, this real deep ability to see what needs to be done, to see what is right, to see. But it's at least we want to start with the kids' ones. And for that, we need ilm, we need knowledge. We need to have knowledge of this faith, knowledge of what is right and what is wrong, knowledge of prayer, knowledge of how to pray, knowledge of aqidah, knowledge of who is God? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, jalla jalaluhu. We need to have an intellectual, if you will, and knowledge, not even an intellectual understanding, I'm not even there yet, just the basic book knowledge of what does it mean to be a Muslim? What is the fiqh of this faith? What are the rules? And you say, oh, rules, I don't want rules. I'm tired of rules. This is a whole world, we're beyond rules now. Well, the fact of the matter is that we all accept the rules at work. Every one of us, if we go to work for a company, or if we go to school at a university, we accept those rules. If our professor says, your rough draft is due on January 15th, we say, okay, I'll do it. We say that because we don't want to lose that opportunity that we've been given at university. At work, if the boss says, you have to have that project in by January 18th, we don't say, that's just sort of a suggestion. We want to hold on to the opportunity of work. So we do it. And we all know that if we don't do it, maybe that's okay once, twice, three times, but we get to a certain number of times, we don't fulfill the rules of work, we are going to lose that job or lose that opportunity for more education or that degree. Of course, some rules are unfair, and that's when we go to court and fight for better rules. But in the end, we recognize rules in our life all the time. But we live in a time, when, we live in a time when rules of religion are looked down on. We're surrounded by the Protestant movement. The Protestant movement was a movement away from rules, and they had a right, they had a right to move away from rules. We have to understand that, because the rules of the Catholic Church were designed mostly by human beings, and so there was a lot of mixed up stuff there, including scientific declarations that were incorrect. So we understand that Protestant movement, and we understand why it grew, but we want to be very careful with our binoculars not to bring this sort of new agey Protestant view into Islam without recognizing the problematic nature of it. if we bring that into Islam and we say to ourselves, well, I don't have to follow any rules. Now, listen, when we say to ourselves, it's hard for me to follow that rule. So if we're talking about prayer, it's hard for me to pray Fajr on time. We're saying to ourselves, I have something I'm working on. I'm working on focusing my binoculars. I'm working on getting better binoculars. But when we say that's not important, that's when we cross a line. We don't have binoculars and we don't have the skills that we need to survive as believers in this time. And that is ultimately the point that I am making here today. So we need those binoculars to focus in and know what needs to be done. What do I need to do? So for example, let's talk about charity. If we know enough about Islam, if we're learning, we start to learn that neighbors are very important. We start to learn that being generous with our things is more important than collecting and hoarding. We start to learn that giving increases, that when we give of our money, it actually increases our money. We learn this from Hadith, Quran, and the sayings of the ulama, and the ilm of the seerah, and the ilm of the learning about the companions, and all sorts of different places of Islamic knowledge. So when we start to learn that, our binoculars focus in, and we're able to see, well, I need to be more charitable. And so instead of giving ourselves excuses for why we have so much, we will start to give more away and be more generous with our money and with our things. And that, again, will help us to survive on this road. And not only survive, the more we focus in on those things, those good ethics and the good character qualities of character that we need, the more we will not only survive, but we will thrive. So the first thing we need to pack in our bag to take with us, in our backpack, okay, is these binoculars. And as we go along, we definitely want to think about what kind of binoculars we're carrying. So as we grow and mature, we're willing to trade them in for better binoculars. So in the beginning of my road, when I first became a Muslim, my binoculars were small and they were great. Ya Allah, just the ability to know God is one. When I first became a Muslim was powerful. Those are binoculars I was like, wow, I can see the world. But then as I grew and I began to learn, my binoculars got better and my binoculars got thicker, and I began to have understandings of society. I began to have understandings of Muslims. And also, there's a place between small binoculars and big binoculars where we begin to understand that Muslims are people. And we stop expecting them to be perfect. And when we can get to that place, that's when we can be a much better Muslim. We can be forgiving of others and yet still set an example and help others to want us to be their partner on this survival trip, this trip of thriving that we want in this life. Okay, so along with the binoculars, let's keep going. Let's go follow the path of the binoculars and let's look at that water. What is that water? What is the water? When we're on a trip, we need water to drink. And when I was in college, we have lots of camping stories of me. I just realized when binoculars, bifocals. Yes, Miriam, nice. When I was in college, I took it right before I became Muslim. It actually had an impact on why I became Muslim. I was going through somewhat of a spiritual crisis, and my university offered a trip to the Black Hills, and I'd never been. So I joined up and I went with them. And when we got there, we divided into two groups, and my group were the inexperienced campers and hikers. So our team leader took us, and then the other one, they went alone, but they went with someone amongst them. They knew what they were doing. Anyway, we got lost. Us and the team leader, we got lost, and we were stomping through the Black Hills, and we were looking for the trail. We couldn't find the trail, and we all ran out of water. And because you don't carry a lot of water in the Black Hills because it's very heavy, so what you do is you go from campsite to campsite where there's more water, and then you're able to fill your little drinky thing. So I got very thirsty, and as I was stomping along I wasn't stomping, I guess. I was stomping in the snow as I was hiking along in the Black Hills. I started to imagine water. I started to, think about the sink that was in my dorm room and how I would never take it for granted again. And I would just be, I kept thinking about how I'll never take water for granted again. And mind you, I was not in danger of death or anything like that. It was October, the weather was cool. I was just thirsty. So then what happened is we came around a corner and there was a lake in front of us and we were saved, alhamdulillah. But water on this trip is the thing that we need. And if we don't know we need it, that's when we're truly in danger. And the thing that we need the most on this trip is prayer. Salah, the ritual prayer of 5 times a day. That is the wet water of our faith. And so we need this. We need it filled always. We need it filled. We need our water bottle filled. We wake up every day with an empty water bottle. And we fill it with each prayer. And we need to fill it with beautiful spring water from the best of clean water sources. And that is our salah. And so when we go to our prayer, we have to go to our prayer on time. We have to go with the correct fiqh of the prayer. We have to know how to pray. And subhanAllah, if you don't know how to pray, that's one thing. But we have to be in a constant state of learning to become better at prayer. And knowing what is the closest to the Prophet's prayer. How do I stand? What's the most important in the prayer? If I'm holding my hands this way, why is she holding her hands that way? Are we both okay? The answer to that is yes, but why? It's so interesting to know why. The different shapes of the water bottles as we think about this prayer. And this prayer is the source of our connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As water is the source and the source of staying alive, prayer is the source. And we all know that what do they say about dehydration? They say that if you're not thirsty, that what happens with many people is that their bodies get so used to being dehydrated, they're not even thirsty. And that is exactly what's happening to Muslims today. We're not even thirsty for prayer because we are so dehydrated of this essential tool of not only surviving but thriving. This essential tool, which is water, which is prayer. We're not thirsty for it. We consider it a job. We consider it a hassle. And for some people, they miss it regularly and they don't even know how that's affecting their very psyche, their very feelings of being in this world. The feeling of being in this world becomes dull. It becomes hard. It becomes, look, this life isn't easy. It just isn't easy for anyone. But our bodies can't survive without water. And our bodies seek water anywhere. So we'll try to get water in a piece of lettuce. We'll try to get water in sucking on a piece of bark even, looking for any type of moisture. And that's what happens with the human being. They don't have prayer. So they're seeking that nutrition, that spirituality in another place. And so they're looking for it in smoking things in the house, in communicating with the house, in going on special low carb diets or high protein diets or whatever. And I know sometimes that's for bodies, but sometimes people are looking for those things to fulfill the emptiness inside because they're so thirsty. But our thirst can only be quenched by water in our bodies. Real liquid. Has to be liquid. That's how we're going to stay alive. Of course, little bits here and there from other things will keep us alive until we find that water source. And all of these other things may be keeping us as an ummah alive. But as an ummah, we're not praying. Ya jama'ah. How many people do you know that are not praying regularly? How many people do you know that miss prayers on a regular basis? How many people do you know that prayer is a secondary thing? They go to work, they don't pray. They go to shopping, they don't pray. They go to school, they don't pray. Prayer is like a suggestion. It's not a suggestion. It is for the spiritual health of our being as water is to the spiritual health of our bodies. And if we want to, if we're serious about surviving and thriving in these times, we have to take our water bottle with us, or we will just not survive. We will definitely not thrive. We will definitely not thrive. Prayer is the crucial piece that we have to take with us. We have our binoculars to see clearly and hold on to understandings. But prayer is the water of our bodies. It's the thing that we need to keep on going every day, to thrive in this life. Okay, what is our compass? We definitely need our compass because as you know, when you're camping, you can easily get turned around. When I was walking in the woods last weekend, and I mean, I was in the Minnesota woods. I wasn't in, the rainforests of Malaysia or something. I was in a place Minnesota, I know it. And it was snowy, so people were tracking in the snow. Twice I got lost and had to backtrack to find my way again. Twice. I guess I did have a compass now that I think about it in my phone, but I didn't use it. I guess I didn't know how to use it, really. I didn't know. But I had to backtrack. But my point here is that it's easy to get lost. It's so easy to get lost. It's easy to get lost with the stray thoughts and ideas that come to us. It's easy to get lost with social media and movies and ways of thinking about the world, where we may even find that they're totally harmless. Yesterday, my daughter made me watch, well, I shouldn't say made me, I needed a break from all of my writing, and we were going to have dinner, so she put on this Netflix show. Wait a minute, it's called Fat, Salt, Acid and Heat, is that what it's called? Something like that. Anyway, so we watched the salt one, and I watched it. It was interesting. It's a very well done documentary. It's a bit upsetting to me because the woman who does it is Iranian, and there's a lot of pork being eaten. So that for me that hurt my heart to watch it. Actually, at one point, not in the salt one, in the fat one, she's eating a piece of pork fat, and she says, "Sorry, Grandma," and that hurt me because I'm a grandma, and I thought, ouch, ouch, ouch. And that's like the thing. I actually wanted to say something else, but let me just say this. That's the thing that Muslims, we just don't break. Like, you can find a Muslim who does so many sins and drinks alcohol, but when you tell them pork, they're like, no. So it just made me sad, and I understand it's because she's in the food world, she's second generation, she's disconnected and all of that, but there was real sadness in my heart when I saw that. Anyway, what I wanted to share, though, she's talking about the compass, is in her second one, she talked about salt, and I got so interested in the salt. It's so interesting. I was like, Subhanallah al-Azim, Subhanallah, who has created all these different kinds of salt in the world. And she talked about a Japanese salt and all this. So after 1 hour of watching that show, I became a salt snob. I was like, table salt? I want Himalayan salt to put on my popcorn. I want that mushia salt that I never heard of before in my life. I want to find it and buy it and bring it to my house and use it. And all of a sudden I was telling my kids, I want focaccia bread so I can put salt on it. And I became a salt snob. And I really don't believe that there's harm in being a salt snob. I mean, it could be financially harmful, I suppose. And it could also be harmful if I decide not to use iodized salt and I need iodine. But in the end, it's not that big of a deal. But I'm giving you this example because I want you to see how easily we can be influenced by this world that we live in without even realizing it. How many of you are watching Netflix and you're getting involved with the characters until the characters are becoming your friends and you're wondering about what they wear and their love life? And you're thinking, how come my relationship with my husband is not like so-and-so's relationship with her husband? I want my husband to, and some of you are really careful, right? You don't watch the quote unquote bad stuff. So you're watching maybe Christian romances, Christian shows, because they're going to be cleaner. But nonetheless, They've got, it's a fake story. It's a storyline. And how many of us are watching things and being influenced? So what we need a compass. What's a compass? Our compass is our strong mind. A strong mind that is practiced in knowing Islamic thinking. A strong mind that is a realist and pragmatist. A strong mind that is able to see yourself become a salt snob, so that you don't end up believing somehow that you've now become a better person because you're a salt snob and there's other poor people that are, something as simple as that. We need a strong mind, not influenced at the very least by haram. Because if I'm talking about being influenced by salt, just imagine how people who watch pornography are influenced. One of the scourges of this ummah is the prevalence of pornography. Pornography in our homes. A'udhu billah. So easily accessible online. So easily accessible. And we have to understand that it is destroying our ability to think clearly. We have to know this. There is something called neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity means that our brain grows and changes with the habits and the things that we do, with the actions that we do. So if I want to develop a new habit of drinking water, that means I want to change my brain to drink it. So I need to plan triggers to make sure that I will drink my water until my brain changes so that I automatically remember to drink water, or until my body changes and I get thirsty, my desires become correct and I get thirsty for drinking water when I should. And I'm pretty sure you all know that because every woman in 21st century is a diet specialist. Now, in the same way, if someone is indulging themselves in pornography, they are changing the very brain in their head so that their desires will change. Their desires will change. And when their desire changes, what is halal will not be acceptable to them anymore. And when what is halal is not acceptable to them anymore, they will not be able to live comfortably in this life. They won't. Let's compare it to food. If someone's desire for food is overwhelming, they're going to get fat. Now, if they get 20, 30, there was a time, we used to live on farms, right? At least the Gray family, the Gray family. We used to live on farms. And so when we lived on farms, we ate cream, gravy, we ate fat meat, we ate a lot of it. And those habits of eating came forth. And my Italian grandmother ate pasta and focaccia and gnocchi and homemade fettuccine with parmesan and cream. It was oh my God, I can't even tell you. And we ate all of those things at one time. It wasn't a few spoonfuls of this. So they taught the generation to eat like this. Now what's happening? Today, not only do we not live on a farm, we don't live in suburban America where we go to the park all day, we live in front of computers. So we have a crisis of obesity. The crisis of obesity is caused by a habit that was developed to live in a certain life. So we're not thriving in this life anymore because our food habits were made for something else. Same way, if people are distorting their brains with pornography, and I define pornography as R-rated and above. If you are watching people fall into bed together, that is the beginning of pornography. If you feel sexually stimulated by what you're watching, that is the beginning of pornography. It is changing your very brain. And so in watching those things, and they change how you want to live. And so as your desires change, you begin to desire what is not halal. The identity politics of today, Islam is not interested in identity politics. Islam recognizes desire and says control it. And so the one who wants to survive and thrive in this world and please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to control that desire. period, wherever it leads, period. But when we're watching pornography, or when we're watching things that change the way our very brain grows, then we are not able to survive and thrive. Because we are interested in, especially if we start to practice, become interested in and project and practicing what is haram. When we are living in haram, we are not surviving or thriving. We're walking down a very different road that is painful in its end. It's like camping and choosing to walk the steep, difficult road with the thorns and the dangerous animals and the no guide and the poisonous berries, and just trying to pick your way through, but constantly finding yourself in difficult situations. So we need a compass, a strong mind. And as we walk along there, now we see the backpack. The backpack is going to carry our binoculars. It's going to carry our water. It's going to carry our compass. And it looks like on top there, it's also going to carry our sleeping bag. The backpack is what we need to carry our supplies in. And of course, that's obvious. Like if I go back to my trip in the Black Hills, I have a funnier story to tell you about backpacks, but just a minute. So in the Black Hills, I had a hiking backpack, which we filled every day. We were taught, we had a very clear list, and we put them in order to walk and carry it. And it's like, you think you want things, when you have to put that on your back, you don't want it anymore. So I have a funny story about backpacks. When in 2009, I think, 2010 maybe, my son, well, I guess I could just subtract. He was 16 years old and he's going to be 22. So about 6 years ago, just about 2012, I guess. 2012 maybe, before I came here, 2011. Anyway, 2011. My son wanted to go backpacking across Europe. Well, my son wanted to visit Europe, and my husband thought, he was 16 years old too. So he thought, let's go backpacking across Europe. And I said, there ain't no way on God's earth I'm going backpacking. I'm pulling a wheelie suitcase. You guys can backpack all you want, but I'm not backpacking. Because I'd been to the Black Hills, I know what it means to carry a backpack. But I got them their backpacks, and they were huge, these backpacks, ridiculously huge. And my son and I was like, you know what? They're men. They've got muscles that God gave them to carry that kind of stuff. I'm wheeling a suitcase. And my husband, I have to speak about this, I suppose, with sympathy, but I was pretty mad back then. He broke his foot. And so who had to carry his big, heavy backpack on day 3? Me. And I was so frustrated by that. He was like wheeling my little carrier, and I'm carrying this big backpack. I'm like, listen to me, we needed wheelies. But in the end, what we need, though, to survive in this life is a backpack that's not filled with bitterness. We need a backpack that's not filled with ugly feelings because it's too darn heavy. We need a backpack that's not filled with old stories and old resentments. We need a backpack that's filled with forgiveness and goodness, kindness and mercy. And obviously our backpack is our heart. We need a heart if we're going to survive and thrive, we need a heart that is absolutely lightweight to carry. And if it's heavy, you're going to be just as mad as I was when I had to pick up that nasty, huge backpack and lug it around Venice. You're going to be mad because bitterness makes you mad. A heavy heart makes you mad. We need a light heart if we're going to survive, and especially if we're going to thrive. And the way to a light heart is we have to be forgiving. We have to learn these skills and qualities. And the way we learn them is through dua and dhikr. We learn them through dhikr, the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We wash our heart through remembering Allah. We wash our heart by repeating His name. We wash our heart by repeating istighfar. Astaghfirullah, 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 astaghfirullah. It affects us. La ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah. all of this. Having it's the same as being a minimalist. Well, I mean, we don't also, I will agree with that, because we don't want to have dunya attachments in our heart either. That also makes it heavy. Just like if you go walking on, and if you're backpacking and you have a backpack filled with a million heavy things, you're going to end up taking it out, because you're going to be like, I'm not carrying that. Same thing, if we're really walking on this road, you're going to discover that if you're too attached to this dunya, you're not going to make it. It's going to drag you down like balls, like chain, ball, what do you call it? A ball and chain on the ankle. Yeah, decluttering is big out there, and that's because the human being craves to come back to what it needs. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Islam has given us this map already, has already given us this map that shows us what we need. Binoculars, vision to see, the ability to see, eyes to see with, water, our prayer, compass, our strong mind, and our backpack, which is our heart. And in the last 5 minutes, let me go to the last one, which is our hat. Now, it's not very popular anymore to say this, but I am not really in a popularity contest. So what we need to survive and thrive in this world is hijab. Hijab is a fard. Our hat, our hijab, is what we wear to be known to the angels and to ourselves as women of faith. It's to fulfill the fard of hijab. The fard of hijab is yes, a piece of fabric. And it's also an entire way of wearing that hat. And, like the idea of British tea parties and hats. In my family, for Mother's Day, my sister holds a tea party, and everyone wears a hat. And we go to her house for a tea party. And I have this big old yellow hat that I wear. And the second my mom has a hat that's exactly like the hat of the Queen of England. And so the second we all put hats on, we're all sitting like this and holding our teacups like this and talking like this. And please pass the scones. Please pass the lemon curd. Oh, if you would, please, I'd like another cucumber sandwich. Oh, could I have that teapot? We're all just sort of acting the part of the hat. And you'll find that that's quite true. If you put any uniform on, and I say uniform in quotes, that which makes you feel part of something. If you put on a doctor's uniform, you begin to feel like one. That's why actors wear costumes. If you put on exercise clothes, you're going to go sit on your floor and do yoga. Make sure your exercise clothes are modest. We as Muslims need to create a line of modest exercise clothing, but until that happens, the Orthodox Jewish women do have skirts and such things, which you can find online. When you put on certain clothes, you begin to feel like that. And in the same way, wearing hijab reminds you of who you are. A woman on this path of surviving and thriving, carrying the standard of faith, carrying the standard of closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, calling out to people and saying, you want me on your team. Now, right now, if we don't have that reputation, but we want to create that reputation. The reputation, when someone sees us, they feel safe. Someone sees us, they feel like, oh, alhamdulillah, a Muslim is here. She will help me survive this wilderness of beasties. Because we are learning to survive together. The other thing hijab does, that hat that we wear, is it connects us together. If you're in an airport and you see someone with hijab, you're like, oh, alhamdulillah. If you walk into a school and you see a teacher with hijab, you're, oh, we're here, we're together, we're here. In the Muslim world, the style of a hijab tells one another sometimes the way they think. And people are, again, oh, you're here. Women have really intelligently used hijab as ways of communication, communicating to one another that I'm there for you. I'm here. I'm ready for you. I'm your sister. I'm your sister in faith and in striving, in surviving and in thriving. I'm your sister. All right, just a couple more. That's what we're going to put in our backpack. But we also need to buddy up. We need to buddy up. Don't try to do it alone. Do not try to do it alone. We need to hold on to our sisters. And if you say to yourself right now, well, I am alone, get up and find someone. Even if that person is online, I'm telling you, online is great. It has helped so many people. The Prophet ﷺ said, I'm just covering up the bottom, I'm sorry. I'll just read it to you. And the Muslim is the sibling of the Muslim. He does not oppress him or betray him. He's at his sibling's service. She's at her sister's service. And Allah is at her service. And she who relieves the difficulty of her brother, Allah will relieve her of one of the difficulties of the Day of Judgment. And who protects a Muslim, Allah will protect them on the Day of Judgment. Find your sisters. Find them online. Find them in community. I know that many of you feel alone. It's easy to feel alone in this world. And it's easy to tell ourselves the rhetoric of, I'm alone. But you are not alone. There are women out there waiting to be your friend. They just don't know you. There are women out there that need you to be their friend. And they need to know you. So buddy up, not just for you. Buddy up for others. Buddy up so you can be at the service of another woman. In one of my halaqas this week, one of the young women, it's a new halaqah, so they don't all know each other very well. And one of the young women, someone died. And it was so beautiful because everyone started reading Surah Yasin for her. They were at her service, even though they never met her face to face. Be ready to relieve someone of their burden. In relieving them of their burden, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to fill that heart. We also know that the Prophet ﷺ tells us this story, that a man visited his friend in a different town. So Allah sent him an angel on his path. And when the angel came upon him, he asked him, where do you intend? He said, I intend to visit a brother of mine in this town, a friend of mine in this town. He said, do you have any investments with him? The angel, do you have some money? Are you going to visit him to get your money back, to talk about your investment, talk about your business? He said, no, I love him for the sake of God. The people you love for the sake of God are those that you want to see them because they remind you who you are. They remind you of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said in that case, Ana Rasul, I am a messenger of God to you, that Allah loves you as you loved your brother or your sister for God's sake. So we want to be proactive about loving our friends, about finding friends. If you feel lonely, find someone to love. If you say, I tried that before, try it again. Be vulnerable. Try it online. Try it in your community. Try it online. Find people that are like you online. Also, Ali radiallahu anh said, take care of your brothers, your sisters, for they are your tools in this life and the next. They are your the things that will help you. Do you not listen to what the people of hellfire say? We have not intercessors nor a devoted friend. So we are able on the Day of Judgment to intercede for those we love for Allah. Imagine. So we need people like that. I need people like that. We need people like that who are going to intercede for us, Yawm al-Qiyamah. And the last one, so we need to buddy up, and the last one is we need to dream. We need to dream big. Think big. Dream big for the ummah. Dream big for yourself. Don't say, I can't memorize the Quran. Dream big. Don't say this ummah will never get better. Dream big. Don't say, oh, I'm tired, I'm sick of Muslims. They drive me crazy. Dream big. Dream big for yourself. Dream big for the ummah. When you're out in the wilderness, you see the sky, you see the trees, you see the mountains, you see the rivers, you see the oceans, you see everything that Allah created. It's big, it's beautiful, it's intense. It's intense. See, in the forest, in the woods, you see all the trees next to each other, and you say, Ya Allah, La ilaha illa ant. Dream big for yourself. Dream big for this ummah. Break open the ceiling that has been set for you by Islamophobia. and dream big for yourself. Dream big for this ummah. So, our survival guide. What do we need? For preparedness, we need to pack. We need to be prepared with our intention. Remember, we need to be prepared with our intention. We need to pack eyes to see with, a scarf that we may be known, a healthy heart, a sound mind, and prayer. We need to bring our friends with us. Buddy up. Find a sister. We need to dream. Dream big. Dream big for ourselves. Dream big for this ummah. And I call on you to join Rabata in these big dreams. I'm so excited that we are now. Could I have the flyers, please? I'm so excited that we're working with Senate Collective in Canada to bring you this project, Letters of the Beloved, and we're dreaming big. We're dreaming big together, and we buddied up. We buddied up, and we're dreaming big together. And so, what we want is for you, your children, the people in the school that you work at. We want you to call on them and do it yourself, and say, "Ya Rasulullah, what do you want to say to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam?" Think about the lesson today, and think, what do you want to say to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? Do you want to write about your big dreams for the ummah? You want to write about your prayer? You want to write about how you're trying to please him or how you've disappointed him? Speak to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. It's a contest, so there's going to be winners. So get your kids to do it too. You do it as well. And I'm hoping, and I know Aunt Shahnaz, I think we are hoping together that we can do a book of them, which would be so beautiful. A book, a collection of letters to the beloved. So that's one thing to do to help us on this road. Also, Rabat registration for spring is open. Get yourselves over there and get registered. That is going to help you with the sound mind. It's going to help you with the binoculars. I'm teaching 2 classes in the spring, Foundations, Foundations, and Faith. That's for you or anyone you know who is struggling with anything in Islam. That's the time to go there and to jump in and take that class for yourself to help others, or for the people you want to help to take the class to ask the questions that they have. I also teach the second half of Companions, but you can start at the second half and then finish the first half next year. It doesn't matter where you jump in. We also have a wonderful fiqh class taught by Ansari Dana, and that fiqh class is all about fixing those things that we need in this life, getting that sound mind. I really encourage you to sign up for fiqh. It's a very important class. It really changes your perspective, and she's a wonderful teacher who teaches fiqh from her heart, mashallah. And we have so many other classes too. We have the Mujaddideen class that talks to us about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has been protecting us from the time of the Prophet ﷺ until now, where we learn about really interesting people in history and what they've been able to do to hold us on track. And also, we've got our 50 book challenge on Facebook. If you're on Facebook, join the page. We're reading books together, discussing them on Tuesdays. So this Tuesday, we'll be talking about The Power of Habit. Last Tuesday, we talked about 168 hours. The beauty of Facebook, of course, is you can go back and talk about 168 hours whenever. It doesn't, you don't lose it. You can talk about it whenever you want. Just bump up the thread. So we're really excited about all these things that are happening. I really hope to see all of you in our classes for Rabat, and I also hope to see you writing letters of the beloved, and I hope to see you on Facebook, and I hope to see you. Remember, this is every second Saturday of the month, so we'll see you next month on Saturday, and we hope that together we will be celebrating February. It'll be a whole new way of thinking. Every month is new. Every month is fresh. Every month is another walk on this road of surviving and inshaAllah thriving. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. May Allah bless you, bless your path, bless your road, and let us together buddy up and survive and thrive together. Assalamu alaikum.